You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, Tom Edwards and James Jones. And I've got no idea why I started this introduction in such energetic fashion, because I have not been so angry at the end of a West Ham United game of football for absolutely ages. 3-0 up at home within the first 35 minutes against Arsenal, cruising, feet up on the sofa, arms behind my head, happy days, drafting all my text messages to my Arsenal mates for just about the time I felt comfortable. And then 1, 2, 3, the most inevitable fight back in the world played out at London Stadium, meaning that we came away from the game with just a point, which some have argued before the game you would have taken. I'm not so sure, and I'm certainly not so sure after being 3-0 up. It felt very West Ham United of last season, and I don't think this week, or I certainly hope that me and the lads are going to go quite as head-to-head on that as we have the last few weeks after a little bit of a stutter in West Ham season, although James Jones is raising his eyebrow already, so I suggest that might not be the case. James, before we get into it, I like your new t-shirt, mate. I don't know, are you a Hool rep, or you're just boshing it to let us know that you have started working out?
I'm not a Huel rep. Brand ambassador is the actual term for it, I think. No, I'm joking. No, it's a free t-shirt with my first order a few months ago, so I thought I'd put it on, and I'm not being paid for this brand placement.
What is it? Just milkshakes, is it? Yeah, not yet, Tom. Exactly.
Not yet. No. It's kind of like they basically brand themselves as almost like meal replacement shakes, but they're not like doesn't mean so you have 3 of them a day. They're more like they've got all like your key nutrients in. This is why they're not paying me, because I don't sell it very well.
Worst advert ever.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's like if you're running late and you need a quick pick me up for breakfast or something, it's like it gives you all the nutrients that a full and healthy meal should give you.
Oh, there you go.
But they don't advise having 3 a day forever.
Right.
So yeah, and I'm not doing that at all. So
no, fair enough, mate. I mean, you've sold it well there. So if Huel are on the lookout for brand ambassador, I think you're the man. You could perhaps just do audio only though, couldn't you, to get round?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite physically there yet, to be fair, but I'm working on it, boys. I'm working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you look trim and hench, if you ask me, mate, James. So it must be just a thing. Tom, I mean, I don't know how I didn't throw to you first. If we're doing visual observations to start off the podcast, you've just shaved your barnet off again. Fed up with jokes from me at the beginning every week saying your barnet's not on point, or just having a breakdown that we should know about?
Who knows at this point, mate? I think I was thinking about getting this mop on again, doing the edit of the YouTube last week, and I had a look at it and I thought something needs to change here. So got the missus on it, got Babs to start getting the clippers out. She's only gone in overcooked it on the top deck, so it all had to come off, and here we are, mate, looking a bit like Thomas Repka for my own liking, actually.
Yeah, peak Repka, very much so. I've seen you play though, Tom, and I know you are definitely more skillful than Super Tom. But lads, look, it's brilliant to see you both. James, so what do you want to do? The Arsenal game, I don't know, you're raising your eyebrow already. At the weekend, I was quiet after the game, both in the WhatsApp chats and on Twitter. I was seeing a few bits go back and forward. I just couldn't be bothered. I really, I've got slightly more energy for an argument or a disagreement now, if you're up for it, which it looks like you are. But I don't know. I don't know how you can be anything than disappointed after that. I don't care who you are, unless you're like the League Two opposition playing against Man City and you somehow find yourself 3-0 up. Then yeah, I can justify it. But you've got 60 minutes not to concede a goal, and we've been defensively resolute all season, and we just completely bottled it. You could tell after the first one, it just heads had gone, and you could just tell it was the most. What's the word? I can't even get my words out. I didn't think I was that angry about this anymore. And shock, I come on the We Are West Ham podcast, and it all comes out again. But you could just see it coming. It was the most predictable certainty the world has ever seen. And it sounds like, or it looks like, you're about to pretend you're not that fussed about it.
I mean, just to your first point, I am up for it, to be fair. I've had my heel today, so I'm definitely up for it.
Come on.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm just equally as disappointed. But it hasn't angered me like in a way that it's definitely angered you. I've been reading over your show notes just a minute ago, and blimey, I mean, incredibly angry still. I tweeted after the game. I was like, do you know what? I probably would have taken a point at the beginning of the day. But then a game like that happens when you're 3-0 up after what was it, 32 minutes, and then you bottle it and you end up just only taking a point from it, and almost going a little bit Spursy. And so. Yeah, it does feel like a defeat, but yeah, we did bottle it, but the way I see it is that it's difficult.
Are you doing this on purpose, just because I'm angry about it? That you think
I'm not. I'm finding it hard to really just feel angry about it. It's frustrating. It's annoying. But it hasn't angered me.
It's not the same words,
like,
isn't it?
It's not like this has happened every week, like we've been used to. Almost every single week, something happens on the pitch which just baffles us, and we're like, why can't we just be like a normal football club? That is an isolated incident this season. It hasn't happened this season at all. We've normally been very good, and I put it down to purely squad depth. Like, we didn't have the players to come off the bench to really change the game. Like, David Moyes should have been solidifying that left-hand side where, or our left-hand side and Arsenal's right, where Chambers was, I think as Jamie Carragher put it was playing like Cafu.
Oh, he bought Mark Noble on, no, James?
Yeah, but he's not playing out on the left, is he? He's in the middle of the pitch. And then he brings Fredericks on and sticks him out on the right and doubles up on our right-hand side rather than our left, which is a bit baffling. But I think all in all, I would have taken a point. And yeah, it does feel like a defeat and it feels disappointing, and we should have seen the game out. It was coming. The moment they got that first goal before the end of the first half, you just knew in the second half they'd find a way back. And I haven't used this as an excuse. I avoided using this as a main excuse on Twitter when I tweeted after the game. But Christ almighty, John Moss has got something to answer for with some of those decisions. And that one when we were through on goal, like what's going on there?
Yeah, that was poor.
And not so much John Moss, but VAR as well. I mean, they checked to make sure that the ball wasn't moving for Lingard playing that free kick quickly for Bowen's goal. Didn't check for Arsenal's second. And if you look at the replay, the ball was moving when he kicked the ball. But even with those little things, we shouldn't be throwing away a 3-goal lead. And then we get unlucky with Antonio hitting the post from 2 inches out, which again is just another frustration. But on any other day this season, we win that game. It's just for me, the way I see it is, it's just one of those games where it didn't go for us. It only went for us for 30 minutes and it all fell apart. But it hasn't. It's not going to underline our season. It's not going to underpin all the good and great work David Moyes has done up to this point.
You've said that last week. I disagree. Look, we'll go into it in more detail in a bit later on in the show. But we did say that last week, that we can't keep on saying it's not going to define our season, because if anything, it's these games, this little run of games that we've got now left is going to define our season, actually, against the teams that are around us or threatening to be around us. Tom, just briefly, because we've got a section parked for this later on, what are your just sort of summary introductory feelings before we go into it in more detail in a bit?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the frustration with you, Will, on this one. I thought we had a game not sewn up, but a team, when you're 3-0 up against a team who was so out of confidence by the looks of it and getting so physically overrun, to then give them away the way we did was very poor. And I don't disagree about the squad depth. That didn't help us at all. But again, I thought a couple of the changes could have been a little bit different. And yet again, I felt like we reverted to a bit too negative. Not saying go all out like we discussed last week, but make them play with the balls that we did in the first 30 minutes to make the difference in the final third. So frustration, and I'm probably with you, sadly, this week, Will, mainly.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased to hear it, mate. And in a way, you know, I am pleased to have a bit of backup, of course, but it's one of those where you don't really enjoy being right. And I think it'll be interesting as we go into it in a bit more detail in a bit. I think our views last week about, I thought, you know, pragmatism was a fairly sensible approach at Man United, and you two wanted to go for it more. I think the flip side is true after 35 minutes at the weekend when we were 3-0 up and it seemed like Arsenal were coming on to us a bit. I think the owner should have been asked to go and kill the game. But look, we'll go into that in a bit more detail. James, I'm going to do the housekeeping. It's going to be a little bit different this week. We've got a particularly special message that came in during the week that I don't know if you could get up and you'll be able to read out. But Rob got in touch this week, didn't he? And to be honest, it put a smile on all of our faces, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a lovely message to receive from Rob. He says, you always ask for feedback, and I just wanted to say how much that I enjoy your podcast. I did a review last year on the Wilkes Hammer, which I think we read out at the time.
Yeah.
The different segments work really well for me, particularly the opposition view and the women's team update. I also like the guests. Today's finance section was excellent. And for me, as a 61-year-old, it's brilliant to hear people like Patsy Holland. Some top guests and getting insights from people like Tony Carr every now and again is brilliant. The three of you combine well, and although I'll be the same age as your parents, it feels like I'm listening to mates talking about the Hammers. I appreciate how much hard work must go into what you do, so I thought the least I could do was to provide feedback on how much I enjoy it. I've listened to several Hammers podcasts, but for me, this is a different level for the above-mentioned reasons. Keep the great work going, and even Will's terrible attempt at the Champions League tune made me laugh last week.
Well, I mean, James, when you put that in the group, to be quite honest, I was having a bit of a bad day the other day. A few things had gone wrong. I was just in a bad mood. Lockdown was getting on my nerves, as I know it is to loads of people at the moment. And when you put that in the group chat, that really, really put a smile on my face. So look, massive thanks to Rob for that, because, you know, nice words like that do cheer us up, don't they? We do work hard. We enjoy doing this pod as well, but yeah, great stuff from Rob, so thanks very much for that. I did brighten our mood. But that brings me on to our latest announcement at the We Are West Ham podcast. It's been a full year now since the first lockdown hit, and unfortunately, as a result, Love Sport Radio, where James and I, and occasionally Tom, would broadcast the West Ham show live to the nation every Tuesday night. They had to come off the airwaves, and our show sadly had to stop with it at the time. But at the time, James and I decided to take on the extra work ourselves, rebrand as We Are West Ham, and keep the show going as a podcast rather than the radio station throughout lockdown, just so you guys still had something to tune into every week while the world looks set to be a bit grim and boring for a while. And just like everyone else, we had no idea when it was or how long it was all going to last, when it was going to end. And to be honest, Jonesy, we were pretty hopeful, weren't we, that we'd be back in the studio within a matter of weeks at the time. But it wasn't to be. Here we are now, 12 months later, still recording from our offices, bedrooms, from our homes. But in the last year, like Rob's there, we've had a lot of wonderful messages from you guys. To be honest, one of my favourite parts about doing this podcast is knowing that fellow West Ham fans like us all around the world are going about their day, whatever it is, work, train, in the car, laughing, smiling, or getting angry in some instances, I'm sure, about something that one of us or our guests has said. One thing we've noticed, though, is that a lot of you who've got in touch to say thanks or just let us know how much you enjoy the pod have said you'd like to buy us a pint. So to mark a year since we went podcast only and rebranded as We Are West Ham, set up an account at buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. And that's exactly what you can do. Now, if you fancy it, you can buy us a pint. It's set at a fiver by the website, so it's London Stadium or the Cow in Westfield pint prices, to be quite honest. But if you head over there, you can buy us a pint each, more than a pint each, or one pint between the three of us if you'd like, which, to be honest, and Tom can vouch for me here, is what James would regularly do when the pubs were open. It was his round before or after a live radio show. 1 pint and 3 straws was Jonesy. But in any case, if you're worried about where the money might go, I can guarantee it will either be spent behind a bar initially at the end of season beers, which are coming up, or it'll be spent on things to make We Are West Ham better for you guys. So that could be guest fees to ensure we continue to get big and relevant West Ham names on the show, equipment and software to improve and maintain sound and edit quality. You know, me and the lads have all got mics and editing software and all that, which we've paid for ourselves up until now. Or of course, quality exciting listener giveaways. We've already given away 3 or 4 replica shirts this season, as well as a bunch of other West Ham prizes, and we want to continue doing that from now on, and perhaps ramp it up a little bit more. So we are planning on organising something where any of our listeners who'd like to can come along and have a beer, a laugh and a chat about West Ham with the 3 of us in person once lockdown rules allow it again, because we'd love to meet all you guys. We often talk about that. So we'll definitely organise something where we can all have a beer together. But like I say, I'd just like to say, whether you do or don't do this will have no effect on the podcast that goes live every week, other than a small addition to the weekly housekeeping section that none of you listen to anyway. You'll get just as much podcast as you do now. Nothing will change, and there's absolutely no drama at all if it's not your thing. It's not a monthly subscription, anything like that. You're not going to miss out if you don't do it, nor will you get anything extra if you do. You do it as often as you like, just once or never, and it just gives you guys a way to chip in a few quid if you'd like us. Some of you have asked about it in the past. So if you'd like to buy us a beer or just support the podcast, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham when you can just do that. And the link is also included in the description to this podcast. Worth noting, I think, James, as well, that, we said that it's not a subscription or anything like that, but absolutely no problem with other podcasters, West Ham or football in general, that do. I pay for a few podcasts that are also available for free. The three of us, as most football content creators do, we do this alongside our jobs, don't we? So no pressure on anyone whatsoever. It's just something we thought we'd do, as quite a few people have asked about it, eh?
Yeah, it's I mean, as you said, no issues with anyone else in our space that charges, but it's just, as you said, we've had a lot of people express their willingness to, or their want to, or find out how they could go about buying us a beer or donating to the podcast. And this is a good way for us to do it. And as you quite rightly said, when Boris lets us, which we're hoping is going to be next month at the earliest, or the latest, shall I say, we should be able to meet up and have a few beers and invite some of our listeners along, finally meet people in person and put the last year behind us and move on. But this is a really, really good way for anyone that does fancy buying us a pint in advance. It'd be really, really good.
Exactly. And it'll get you out of finding excuses not to put into the whip, won't it, at the end of the season, which will be an absolute
Guilty
result. But yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, look, I think that covers it. That's probably the longest housekeeping we've ever done, isn't it? So I think, the majority of people will have no doubt turned off because just me getting people to follow us on Twitter. Oh, no, I haven't asked people to leave us a review, but perhaps that's too much this week, Jonesy. What do you reckon?
Yeah, pint or a review, either or. Can't be asking for it. We're asking too much.
5 stars and and some nice words, or a pint of Estrella. You still on Carling, are you, Tom, these days?
I've gone up in the world. Oh yeah, exactly. With this, I'll take wherever I'm on Tiskies with this, actually, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, like I say, if you're one of those who's expressed the desire to do that, you can now do that now. buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. If not, do not worry, and it will just be a brief mention of it in the housekeeping each week, which you can continue to ignore if you want to. So, lads, back to the Arsenal game. Tom, I think I'll go to you first because I'm not really in the mood for James's pragmatism this week. Last week, I'll put it this way. Last week, you were arguing that West Ham should have gone for it at Old Trafford, right? So as soon as we were 3-0 up, and I know it might seem counterintuitive, Arsenal got that 1 goal back. We managed to scrape into half-time. The first one, I don't think you can argue with. It's a great turn and finish by Lacazette. I know it comes off of Souček and ricochets in. But it was good footwork. I thought Lacazette was outstanding the whole game. And I thought after half time, I thought that was the time, given that it plays into our strengths, i.e. we're good at going forward and scoring goals this season, the best thing to do would have been to go out and attack them. I know they were going to come at us, but go out and attack. And all of a sudden you've got a 3-goal lead again. And it puts them on the back foot and just worries them a little bit. But we didn't do any of that. I know Antonio hit the post, but other than that, we didn't scare them at all, did we, in that second half?
No, I absolutely agree with you, mate. I really do. I thought it wasn't as if we weren't creating anything and we were going to dead ends and we were losing the ball in bad areas. More often than not, when we got out, we were creating stuff or in around good positions, or we had 3-on-3s and we just didn't quite make the most of it. We looked dangerous and we clearly couldn't deal with Lacazette all game, dropping into that pocket between Rice and Souček, and they were going to get chances for the whole game. The way it panned out, you could just tell that it was going to be gazumping us and us just trying to withstand something. And I felt like the only thing to do was to go out and hit them. And that Antonio one, I know I know it looks bad. He maybe could have started the run a bit earlier. He looks to go a bit late to the back post, but other than that, he's done everything right. And that was just one of those inches things. But I personally feel like if we got at them, and we could have done that numerous times. I thought Bowen and Benrahma 1v1 against their fullbacks had no problem going by them and putting the ball in the box. And yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame that we reverted back and just sort of lost that courage to play. I think Lingard came out in the interview after, and something I tweeted and always say is courage to get on the ball and make things happen and be brave to take that forward pass, make that chance, or just delay it for a second and not pump a rush of blood and just hook it out to touch, actually get on the ball again. And hopefully they'll learn from this and we won't see it happen again, because it was a bit of a stinger, that one.
Yeah, I think, like you say, with that Antonio one, that is a one-off thing. You could say, oh, Benrahma's hit it a bit hard, Antonio goes a bit late, whatever. But like you say, that is inches here or there, isn't it, really? I did actually make some notes during the game, James, which I haven't done for a very long time. I felt very professional doing it, but I just put Rice and Souček non-existent in the second half. Tom's mentioned it there. I thought Odegaard and Lacazette dropping in, just that was where the game was won, really dominated that space. I know Chambers from the right hand side did well, but all of those moves started from that space where Rice and Souček was supposed to be playing. That frustrated me, because I think you've got two holding midfielders there. We should be dominating that area of the pitch against anyone. I did Chambers, Lacazette and Odegaard, I thought were outstanding for Arsenal in that second half. The down the left, Cresswell and Benrahma. And I did put, and I'll bring it up then, you've said these won't define our season. I think you're wrong, because I think that felt like the difference between a European place and not, because you just invite, like we invited Arsenal on, you've also invited all those teams around us. They've nicked a few points on us, and that's so tight there. It's very, very feasible that we could finish 8th now. And before David Sage gets on me about projected negativity, I'm being negative about the game that we've just seen play out.
Oh, I mean, I see your point, and maybe it does define our season. I think we can't. We look at the end of the season and go, okay, well, we've already said that the Newcastle game at the beginning of the season is just an absolute stinker now, because they're the only team outside the top 6 that's actually beaten us this season. And look at the season they've had since. Like, we shouldn't have lost that game. I think Odegaard was probably the best player we've come up against this season. So I thought he was just outrageously good in midfield, and we just didn't know how to deal with him. He pulled the strings. I think you're a bit harsh on Souček and Rice being non-existent. I think, yeah, okay, it wasn't their worst game, but they both had good moments. Declan Rice turned into Lionel Messi for 30 seconds, which is fun to watch.
Should have turned though, shouldn't he? Silly shooting there.
Yeah. Or he should have played it off to Antonio earlier, but. Yeah, I don't think the second half performance was half expected. I think we all kind of expected us to come out, and we all wanted us to go out and try and nick a fourth, kill the game. But deep down, we all expected us to go out there. We've seen West Ham do it so many times, particularly at home this season, and try and protect the lead. We very rarely have gone at teams when we've already been leading. And so that's kind of what we were expecting, and that's what we got. And when you come up against players like Odegaard, who can pull the strings in midfield, and Chambers like a man possessed on the right hand side, and Lacazette doing a great job in dropping in, we found it very difficult. And Cresswell got exposed on more than one occasion. Dawson can't stop scoring, just at the wrong net now. So yeah, for me it was less anger and just more frustration that we could all see it coming. And once again, everyone but David Moyes and the players can see it coming. It's happened on more than one occasion this season. Luckily, we didn't lose the game, because I think if there's another 5 minutes on the end of that, we would have lost it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the first half as well. So, Tom, I've written down here, and there's been a lot of, it seems to be the flavour of the week on West Ham Twitter this week, about people being polarised. I mean, like we've said it before, people are polarised about everything. in society at the moment, aren't they? Which is, relentlessly boring and frustrating. However, this week's flavour of the week on West Ham Twitter seems to be the Saeed Benrahma conversation. We've had differences of opinion on it before. We both agreed that he should have started ahead of Noble at the weekend. I've just put down here Benrahma ? Noble ? I didn't think Benrahma did anything to particularly argue his case that definitely we have to start him again next week. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that, and bringing Noble on again. I mean, it's getting to the stage now, isn't it, where I think a lot of people just don't want to see him on the pitch in the Premier League, and maybe that is a squad depth issue, but I don't know I never understand really what the purpose is. What do you think the thinking was behind bringing Noble on?
Yeah, I think it was to try and plug the gap between Lacazette and Odegaard getting in that hole, like we all mentioned. But Noble was playing too high. When he came on, I was shocked. He played him. The thinking was to play him there. He played him at the 10. He played him ahead of Rice and Souček when he should have played him inverted and played him behind then and let them get their legs and try and nick a winner. So he didn't actually, tactically, it was just a bit of a disaster class. You put someone on who can't chase, who can't cover lateral ground very easily anymore, and he just ends up getting caught high up the pitch on numerous occasions. I don't know how many gifs there are and memes about him just getting driven by Partey and David Luiz and just one touch and he's away. And I think the only time he's come on and really made any sort of impact this season has been when he's been at the bottom of that three and had to run less and just sort of done the dirty work for those two. And to play him ahead of him's just been kamikaze at times. And I think if we use him again, I do think he's good enough on the ball. I do think he's still got that experience to just about do it in the Prem, but only when he's got the protection of those two in front of him and he's playing that bit deeper. And on Saeed, do you want to talk on that?
Yeah, no, you can go, mate. Yeah, I've just still love that you're on first name terms with him because you're determined for that Benrahma 9 shirt that you've got that you paid 75 quid for to be worth some money at the end of the season.
Mate, it's coming. I'm telling you, please, Kai, please. I need to sell it on eBay soon.
What do you think? What did you honestly think?
I thought he showed flashes. Agreed. I think defensively he was part of the problem for Chambers and Co getting in on that side, no doubt. And I think he's been all right defensively all year. I think that's been one of the things which has surprised people, how hard he has worked. I think the weekend maybe he didn't show that as much. I think going forward, his link-up play with Lingard in the first 20-30 minutes again was positive and does give us an extra dimension going forward, and we can keep the ball in the final third a bit better with both of them on the pitch and create different angles and maybe get a few balls in a box and get Souček higher because he takes it to the byline. So I think he offers us something. I think if he flashes that across and Antonio scores, everyone will be waxing lyrical about a moment of genius from him to win West Ham a key game which puts him in Champions League place, and I think it would be an entirely different conversation. And I do have a problem people going at him. I mean, it's his first year in the Premier League. He's done all right. He's been in and out the side. He started 13, been off the bench 11. He's only started 4 in a row is the most he's ever started. I think I just had a look at it. He's barely got given a real fair crack at it yet, and there's more to come from him. And getting on his back is just, come on, we're 5th in the Premier League, and he's contributed to that.
Yeah. Well, a man who has got a different view to you on Saeed Benrahma, Tom, perhaps a little bit more in line with my own one. He got absolutely pelters for on Twitter is Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian. He's not a man who shirks on his views on West Ham or football or anything, which is what you want, and it's why he's a top level outstanding journalist. James, go on before we move on. You've got one more thing to say by the looks of it.
Yeah, no,
my seamless, flawless link there.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. The last 2 games, I think, and I forgot to mention it earlier, we've really seen how much we miss Fornals in that midfield. Yeah. Just his work rate and the legs he has on him throughout the game, and obviously David Moyes likes that bit of work rate in midfield, and I think we noticed
particularly
it
against the big teams, isn't it?
We noticed it more against Arsenal. Not many people have mentioned it or spoken about him. And he's kind of been almost a Hayden Mullins of the season, where he kind of just slips under the radar a little bit. But is relatively effective. And we miss him when he's not there. And I think we're beginning to see that we miss Fornals. He just offers that little bit more energy and just doesn't stop working in midfield. I think that was partly our downfall on the weekend.
Yeah.
I agree, particularly against a good team. You do argue whether or not he'd have let Chambers' goal on that run where he scored from. But you know, it's 3-3. It's a point against Arsenal. We would have taken it before James, but I am still of the opinion that a professional Premier League football team, when you're 3-0 up against anyone with 45 minutes to go or whatever, should definitely be professional enough to see that out for the win. But hey, we didn't. We're still in with a fight at Europe, I think, and I can't wait till after next week, if we get a negative result, James Jones to tell me once again that it's not defining our season. But Jacob.